certify closed session, please?
Madam Chair, I certify to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Henley and Mr. Riffle.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Hosang?
Aye.
Mrs. Henley?
Aye.
Mr. Riffle?
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos?
Aye.
Ms. Chen?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega?
Aye. And can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. Ms. Robinson?
Mr. Riffle?
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos?
Aye.
Ms. Chen?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Hosang?
Aye.
Mrs. Henley? Aye. Mrs. Ortega?
Aye. And I will turn it over to Dr. Herron for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday was Veterans Day. Throughout the school division, we showed our deep gratitude for our veterans and military-connected families through presentations, activities, and student-led programs. On behalf of WJCC Schools, it is our honour to thank our community's veterans, active duty service members, and their families for their selfless dedication and service. And I'd recognise Mr. Hosang tonight and thank you for your service as well this evening.
Oh, and
Dr. Cavazos. Apologies, sir. Can you believe it? Planning for graduation is already well underway. Graduation ceremonies for the class of 2025 will be held on Saturday, June 7th at the William & Mary Kaplan Arena. Ceremony times are 9 o'clock a.m. for Jamestown High School, 1:30 p.m. for Lafayette High School, and 6 p.m. for Warhill High School. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report for this evening.
thank you, Dr. Herron. Are there any reports from board members?
I could give a brief report. I attended the first Student Advisory Committee meeting. So just wanted to thank Dr. Worley and Ms. Mompoint for helping to lead that discussion with our students. So we welcomed some new students to the committee, and it was great to see some of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors come back. So got to hear from students from all the schools, and we had a great discussion around communication, inclusion, creativity, and some themes, and tried to set some goals with the students, and we're hoping to turn that into action items that they can then see their efforts and ideas in our schools. So, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. Mr. Hosang?
We had a New Horizons meeting, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. And we received a presentation regarding the New Horizons Family Counseling Center. It's a program that's affiliated with William & Mary, where they provide counseling to families and students on a wide variety of topics. And it's free counseling to the family and the children. So if there's any issues regarding families going on, they can take advantage of that. I will say that Williamsburg, James City County had the highest percentage of patrons, I guess is the best way of putting it, and I attribute that to it being at William & Mary, that we're so close to William & Mary that they're taking advantage of those services. We also reviewed the accomplishments of the 2023-2024 school year, and we're meeting all the established goals. The one thing that they did mention that they're going to try and work better on is recruiting. That New Horizons having issues with recruiting and attending recruiting fairs, and so that's one of the things that they're going to make a focus of. And we also reviewed the multi-hazard crisis / emergency management plan for the facilities. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hosang. No other? Oh, Mr. Riffle, you do?
Yes. Yeah, I have one from the WHRO Education Advisory Committee. We had a first meeting with our new chair, Brittany Walker, and we had a spotlight from the Virginia Symphony Orchestra talking about all the educational opportunities that they had, like SOAR and the orchestra moves and programs in which are available to school divisions as they visit their localities. We also heard a little bit of brief overview from the superintendent's report, which just kind of briefly talked about student advisory and, or actually the superintendent advisory council, how that stuff's been moving around. I'm sure Dr. Herring enjoyed that more than I did. We also heard from the board directors, Yolanda Ullman. She's the new director of the WHRO board of directors. She's also elected 5 new members, so that there's a lot of things shifting around when it comes to the localities that participate in WHRO. And we heard a report from the CEO as things are moving, as the audit is happening and things are wrapping up for the year. So lots of things moving on with the financials. We are doing well. Things are, everyone's paying their dues and they're getting small grants and nonprofits are donating. So it's a good time to be a part of education at WHRO. They also highlighted some updates that are happening within educational services. Like there's a new environmental science course. They're updating their geometry courses. And I just would like to return back to this as a wealth of information available to our teachers and our substitute teachers and people who are planning lesson plans. WHR has a lot of things that are based in the SFL curriculum through Media VA, and that's just a resource I think we should take on more often as we kind of integrate technology into education. So that's all I have from it. It seems that things are moving forward, but it's always a lot more to consume in the meeting than I can say in the seconds I have on this meeting. So we'll leave it at that. But it's doing great, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle. Is that it for reports? Okay, then I will turn it over to you, Dr. Herron, to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening we're pleased to welcome Ms. Tracy Healy, CEO and President of Future Think, who has served us for many years now, bringing us enrollment projections that help us predict future facility needs. Ms. Healy, welcome, and we'll hand it right over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Herron. It's my pleasure to be with you all tonight to talk a little bit about the enrollment projections and where we've been and where we're going in terms of that. And try to share my screen and get the presentation started here. Okay. All right, we're good to go. So my name is Tracy Healy. I'm the president and owner of Future Think. As Dr. Hearn said, I've been working with WJCC for over 20 years now. Future Think is a planning and consulting firm working primarily with K-12 districts almost exclusively for past several years. We've been in business since 2006. Located in Dublin, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, so right in the center of the state. Worked with about well over 1,000 school districts over the past 30 years, so provide a lot of case studies, lessons learned, best practices as we move forward. In terms of looking at enrollment projections, we look at several pieces of data. First and most important being the historical enrollment. So here you can see the this current year and the previous 9 years. So we've tried to look at a 10-year window in terms of what's happening across the grades. So, and we'll also look at it, by each elementary school, by each middle school, and each high school. Can see, enrollment has been right in that 11,300 window over the last 10 years, with a couple of exceptions. Those COVID years, we saw a drop in enrollment, but have since rebounded over time. You can also see that at the elementary level, we've had, it's fairly flat across the board, but we've seen some lower kindergarten numbers in the last couple of years. So that's going to have an impact on the projections as we move forward, since the kindergartners are going to be with us for a long period of time over that 10-year projection window. So here you can kind of see how, how kind of peaked back in 2017-18, but really, has been right around that 11,300 in terms of total students, K-12. And again, we can see, in terms of
the elementary, we saw that, those dips again during the COVID years. High school really remained flat during that time period. Same with the middle school. We really just kind of saw that the dip most prominently at the elementary level. In terms of the projections that we did last year, we always compare, how we did. So this is looking at the low projection for last year in this column, and then the actual enrollment. So we can see, overall we were within 123 students for K-12, or 1%, and the biggest difference really was at that kindergarten level. So we had projected 822 students, only 727 showed up. Again, I mentioned this has been one of the lowest elementary or lowest kindergarten enrollment years that we've seen. And so, kind of down the line, the other bigger discrepancy was at ninth grade as well. So that's looking at the low. We also look at the moderate projection. So here's where, for the moderate, we were within 68 students overall, but again, a bigger difference at that kindergarten level. So again, that uncharacteristically low kindergarten, we missed there, but across the rest of the grades, in pretty good shape. And again, overall, within 0.6%. In terms of our projection methodologies that we look at is primarily, a combination of the cohort survival method, which is just looking at the number of students that have moved through the system grade to grade, year by year. And then we develop ratios to estimate future projections based on the trends that we've seen over that 10-year window. And we also look at housing, how many building permits have been issued in a given year, and evaluate those trends as well to determine potential number of students that we may see as a result of housing. So it's really kind of a combination of those two methodologies in terms of looking at the projections. We have been providing WJCC with actually 4 projections. So we have a most likely projection, which is traditionally used for planning purposes, and the low projection, which is traditionally used for budgeting, and then we also provide a moderate and high. So there's a range of projections, and that's really kind of a result of, how quickly is building going to take place, at what the number of new homes going in, as well as the rate in which they're going in. So we look at that, also look at some economic things, what's happening in terms of housing rate or, interest rates. We've seen, really high interest rates most recently. We've seen those come back down, and how is that impacting the housing market as well, and obviously the number of students we can expect from that new housing. So looking at the most likely projection, we have an increase of just over 2,000 students over that 10-year window. So from, we're currently at, 11,379 up to 13,1387, showing increase of up to 5,600 at the elementary level, just under 3,300 students at the middle school, and about 4,500 students at the high school level in that 10th year out. Also notice that next year we are in the 2006-07 school year, we have a pretty significant bump projected at that kindergarten level, and that is a result of the unusually high birth rate or birth count that we saw in 2021, which primarily we'll start seeing those kindergartners in that 26-27 school year. So the birth counts were over 900 for the 21 school year, and where previously we'd seen them in the 780 to 800 window. So that's the reason why we see a significant increase there at K. The low projection is really a flat projection. It's just saying, hey, here's where we are. This is probably where we're going to stay over that 10-year window. It shows just a slight decrease of about 10 students over that period of time. You can see, elementary, just flat, right at, 4,930. A little bit of an increase at the middle school level and an actual decrease at the high school level as we look at that 10-year window. For the moderate projection, we see increase up to 12,672 students. Again, increases across the board at elementary, middle, and high. And we can see have that bump at that kindergarten level in 2006-07, and then it kind of levels off in the out years at the moderate projection in the 790s. And then the high projection has this increasing significantly, almost 3,000 students, up to 14,143. Elementary level at 55-53 for that 10-year out. Middle school at just over 3,500 students, and the high school at just under 4,800 students. So again, a significant increase as we look, out into the future. In the report that you received too, there are projections for each of the elementary, middle, and high school, all by grade for each of the schools in the division as well. So I wasn't going to go through each of those individually, but certainly if there are questions about those, we can talk about that as well. And if there's questions really about anything at all, we can go through those. Because I know it's a lot of information to throw at you right from the get-go.
Thank you, Ms. Healy. Board members, are there any questions? Mrs. Hunley?
Yeah, I have a question. As far as the kindergartners, if a large number of parents decided to not send their children just to give them a break or grow up, or if some kindergartners went to private preschools, would that have affected the numbers?
Yeah, and we've looked at, we look at that, and kind of what's happened previously. And oftentimes what we'll see is an increase in, those survival ratios from kindergarten to first grade. So we can see a significant number of, an increase. In your case, on average, there's about 100 and the survival ratio is at like 105% over that period of time, meaning we have about 5% more first graders than we had in kindergarten the previous year. So it does account for those, say, yeah, we're doing private for kindergarten or holding back and just starting in first grade. So that is accounted for within.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Mr. Hussein?
Regarding, excuse me, the most likely chart, I guess what specific criteria were you using? To come up with the numbers for the most likely chart?
Sorry, I was going to go back to that one for you. Make that a little bit bigger. So yeah, so in terms of the projections, what we look at is high, moderate, low, and then most likely. And the most likely falls between the moderate and the high projection. So it's looking at, higher rates of that cohort survival moving through the grades, as well as, an increase in the rate of housing. So we're looking at, more housing going in than we would at low or moderate and at a faster rate. So it's kind of right in that middle window between the moderate and the high.
I just have one question, ma'am. How do these numbers take into consideration migration into the division? For example?
Yes. As we, again, kind of look at those, the rates and the change grade to grade year by year, we can see what the in-migration is as well as the out-migration. And as we, on average, just looking for grades, as we look at that movement, kindergarten through 1, all the way through to 9th grade, your in-migration is higher. So we're seeing more students entering the system than we saw the previous year. In grades 10 through 12, it's right at, in that 99 to 94% on average, which is typical because as students move in into the high school, the way their graduation units are counted, and how there may be some dropouts or children moving to one of the voc tech schools as well. So there's a little bit of drop off, but not much, and that's we see those in divisions across the country that have that drop. But yes, that in-migration is, considerable for each of the grades through 9th grade.
So you're considering your immigrants even from outside the country?
We're not looking at, we haven't looked at like ethnicity or where students are born, but we do really just study what, the kind of the movement that we see within the school district. We haven't broken it out by ethnicity, but, that's something that we could look at in the future.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, I think that was it for tonight. Thank you very much, Ms. Healy.
Okay, well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight.
Yep.
And if any other questions come up, I'm available to answer those. So thank you again.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Have a good night.
Sure. Good night.
I'm going back to where I was. Okay. Now we'll move on to Portrait of a Graduate, Class of 2024.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Worley is going to lead the presentation tonight and providing some of our outcomes in graduation, college exams, and other data. And we're excited to bring this information to you this evening. Dr. Worley, over to you.
Thank you.
So we wait on the screen. I believe Dr. Worley's got some very important guests with her this evening. Would you like to introduce them,
I
Dr.
sure
Worley?
do. We have all 3 high school principals here, and you'll get to hear a bit from them towards the end of the presentation. And as Dr. Heron said earlier, we are very excited about these data. We've seen lots of growth and progress, and a lot of work's been put into it, so we're excited to share it with you this evening.
And we've stalled all the time we can. Now we're just waiting on the slides coming up.
Hey, all right. So once again, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Heron. Tonight I will share with you information relating to the profile of a WJCC graduate for the class of 2024. The information presented this evening and the work supporting the success of our graduates represents a collaborative effort between everyone, our school leadership, accountability and assessment, school counseling, most importantly, our high school principals and staff at our schools, the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, graduation coaches, school improvement specialists, and the staff of all 3 schools. A special thank you tonight to Dr. Molly Guthinger, our supervisor for data program evaluation and accountability, for leading the task of pulling all of this data together for our presentation this evening. As a part of the overview, we will look at graduation rates for the class of 2024, as well as share overall information for the Scholastic Aptitude Test, or SAT results, American College Testing, or ACT results, and Advanced Placement, or AP test information. This graph on the slide summarizes demographic reporting group data for our 2024 cohort. The following reporting groups, economically disadvantaged, special education, military connected, English learner, and homeless, are displayed in shades of green on the left, and the ethnicity reporting groups of white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and other are displayed in shades of blue on the right. The class of 2024 began with a cohort of 953 students. This afternoon, we will review the two key percentages relating to the success of the class of 2024, the on-time graduation rate referred to as OGR, and the cohort completion rate referred to as CCR. First, the 2024 graduating cohort of 953 students had an OGR of 95.3%, meaning that 908 students, or 51.7%, earned an advanced studies diploma, and 43.6%, or 415 students, earned a standard diploma or applied studies diploma. The OGR is captured in the current calculation for state accreditation. Next, the class of 2024 had a cohort completion rate of 98.1%. The cohort completion rate represents the percentage of students in the cohort that earned a diploma or completed a high school equivalency program, such as the GED. You will hear additional information about these two rates throughout the presentation. And finally, on this slide, you will see we had a dropout rate of 1.7% for 2024, or 16 students. This is down significantly from last year, where the dropout rate for 2023 cohort was 3.3%, or 31 students. The next few slides show additional data relating to the OGR for our division, our 3 high schools, and the state. As a reminder, the OGR is the percentage of students in the cohort who earned a board-approved diploma within 4 years of entering high school as a 9th grader. This slide provides a comparison of our WJCC class of 2024 OGR to the state. Our WJCC OGR, represented in green on the left, is 95.3% compared to the state rate of 92.8% in blue on the right. This next slide displays 5 years of WJCC OGR data. The 2018-19 school year is included to provide a pre-pandemic perspective, followed by trend data across graduating cohorts from 2021 through our current year of 2024. And you will see this consistent pattern throughout many of the data slides we provide for you this evening. So looking from left to right, you will see that WJCC's OGR was 92.7% in 2019, and our class of 2024 OGR is 95.3%. We are excited about the continuous growth with the division OTGR rate, and our 2024 cohort rate of 95.3% is the highest it's ever been. The next 3 slides will provide OGR data for our individual high schools. Each slide will follow the same format as the WJCC OGR slide, with 5 years of data, starting with the class of 2019, followed by the classes of 2021 through 24. The high school's OGR is represented by the gray bar on the left. The rate of WJCC is green bar in the middle, and the blue bar on the right represents the OGR for the state. The number of students in the school's cohort is displayed under each school year as the in count, and the number within the gray bar is the number of on-time graduates for the school's class of 2024. For this slide, Jamestown High School, looking at the set of bars on the far right, for 2024, Jamestown had 310 students in its cohort, with 299 students graduating on time for an OGR of 96.5%, which is over 3 points higher than last year. The next slide shows 5 years of Lafayette High School OGR data. The gray bar represents Lafayette data over time. Looking at the far right on this slide, the Lafayette class of 2024 had 304 students in a cohort, with 285 of these students graduating on time. Lafayette's OGR was 93.8%, which is a significant increase, 3.6% over their 90.2 rate last year. Our third high school, War Hill, is also represented by the gray bar for each school year. The War Hill class of 2024 had 339 students in its cohort. 95.6%, or 324 of these students, graduated on time. And as you can see, War Hill has steadily increased over the last few years. This next slide gives us a quick snapshot of WJCC compared to our like school divisions across Virginia. As a reminder, our like school divisions are similar in enrollment, demographics, and budget. The WJCC OGR rate exceeds 5 of the 6 school divisions in Virginia that are considered our like school divisions. The next slide shows Williamsburg-James City County schools in comparison to local school divisions. WJCC exceeds 3 of 5 surrounding school divisions. Our schools, including our principals who are here this evening, are quite competitive, and so we are confident that we will see WJCC continue to grow and outshine our local divisions in the future. Next, we will move on to a focus on the on-time graduation rate for specific reporting groups. This slide takes a closer look examining the on-time graduation rate for the specific demographic reporting groups of Black, Hispanic, White, economically disadvantaged, English learners, and students with disabilities compared to the state. The green bars in this graph display the 2024 WJCC graduation rate for the identified reporting groups, and the blue bars, like the previous slides, represent the state rates for the same group. The number of students in the 2024 cohort for each reporting group is provided under each set of bars, and the actual number graduating on time is noted in the green bar. WJCC outperforms the state in 5 of the 6 performing groups, with 1 group performing with the state. Focusing on the last reporting group on the far right, the 2024 cohort had 133 students with disabilities with a 97.7% graduation rate, graduating on time, and this equates to 130 of the 133 students. This is incredible, and we are extremely proud of the continuous work and effort of our teachers and staff supporting all students within our schools. The next slide shows the same 5 years of trend data as used on previous slides for 3 additional reporting groups of economically disadvantaged, English learners, and students with disabilities. Again, the OGR rate is trending up across all 3 groups, and we are outperforming pre-pandemic OGR rates in all 3 reporting groups. In the next set of slides, we'll look at the cohort completion rate, or CCR, for WJCC and our 3 high schools. The completion rate includes the cohort's on-time graduates in addition to students earning GEDs and students completing high school in 5 or more years. These completers were able to complete a traditional diploma track or another program of study that provides access to college, trades, or other programs, or a direct track to the workforce. Our first slide shows the comparison of our CCR rate to the state. The green bar represents WJCC's 2024 cohort of 98.1%, and the state's rate of 93.8% is represented by the blue bar on the right. Our rate is over 5 percentage points higher than the state. The next slide displays 5 years of cohort completion rates for WJCC. Starting on the left, you can see that the rate was 95.2% in 2019. We have exceeded this pre-pandemic rate over the last 4 years with the 2024 CCR at 98.1%. The next 3 slides will provide CCR data for our 3 high schools for the same 5 years we've been looking at this evening. Again, for each school year, you will see the high school's completion rate first, represented in gray, and then WJC represented by the green bar. The total number of students in the cohort for the school is displayed under each school year with the end count, and the number inside the gray bar is the number of completers. The Jamestown class of 2024 had 310 students in its cohort. 299 students either graduated on time, received a GED, or completed high school in 5 or more years for a CCR of 98.1%. Next, we will look at Lafayette High School. The Lafayette class of 2024 had 304 students in its cohort, with 296 of the students meeting the criteria as a completer. The CCR rate is 97.4%, which is almost 4 points higher than last year. Lastly, we have War Hill High School. Like previous school slides, War Hill's percentage is represented by the gray bars. The War Hill class of 2024 had 339 students in its cohort. 335 of these students were completers, giving War Hill a CCR rate of 98.8%. The next slide gives us a quick snapshot of WJCC, CCR, compared to our like school divisions across Virginia. The 2024 cohort completion rate of 98.1% is higher than all of our like divisions in Virginia. The next slide compares Williamsburg in comparison with our local school divisions. Again, the WJCC rate is higher than 4 out of 5 surrounding divisions, and we are performing equal to 1 school division. To summarize, this table provides both the on-time graduation rate and the cohort completion rate for the class of 2024 and each of our 3 high schools. This data is a celebration and speaks to the work of school leaders and teachers who make school attendance, student engagement, and instruction a priority, and they do whatever it takes to help each individual student find his or her pathway to post-secondary success. The next few slides will take a look at how our students performed on assessments and coursework related to college readiness. Specifically, we will look at data from the SAT, ACT, and AP exams. First, let's look at how our students performed on the SAT, which is one test that serves as an indication of the extent to which students are prepared for college-level work. The SAT assessment has 2 subtests, reading and writing, and mathematics. The scale score for the subtest ranges from 200 to 800. Combined, these subtest scores make up the overall SAT score, with the perfect score being 1600. For reference, the mean or average SAT score is usually around 1000. The SAT data shown here represents the class of 2024 students only, although students in other cohorts may have also taken the test last year. These 366 students had a mean total score of 1,122, which was 21 points higher than the state and 98 points higher than the U.S. mean score. Additionally, you will note that Williamsburg has outperformed the state and the country since 2019. Next, let's look at how our students performed on the ACT, which is another test that measures a student's preparedness for college-level work. This test has 4 sections: English, reading, math, and science. There is also a writing section of the test that is optional. Unlike the SAT on the previous slide, these ACT data are comprised of all students taking the test in 23-24. Therefore, the data reflect test participants across grade levels versus the class of 2024 alone. The overall ACT score students receive is commonly known as the ACT composite score. The composite score is an average of the subtests within the ACT itself. Each subtest and the overall composite score ranges from 1 to 36. In 2024, only 81 students took the ACT and had a composite mean score of 24.3. This mean score is slightly under the state mean of 24.6 and 5 points above the national score of 19.2. Finally, shown on this slide are data related to AP exams taken by students across the school division. These data reflect not only students of the class of 2024, but any student who participated in an AP exam during the 23-24 school year. AP courses offer high school students the opportunity to complete college-level coursework and potentially earn college credit while still in high school, as colleges and universities consider awarding credit to students scoring 3 or higher on the AP exam and exempt them from coursework. However, this is not guaranteed. Students across all 3 high schools participate in AP courses with the option to participate in the accompanied exam. For the 2023-24 school year, 1,400 AP exams were administered in Williamsburg. The pie graph on the slide breaks down the number of exams by school. The next slide shows the number and percentage of AP exams with a score of 3 or higher during the 23-24 school year, along with the previous 5 years as a reference. In the first row of the table, you see that WJCC had 1,014, or 72%, of the 1,408 AP exams taken receive a score of 3 or higher. You will note a steady increase of exams and a score of 3 or higher in WJCC since 2019. Next, we will take a look at our summer school program as it offered opportunities for continued success for our students. The next slide highlights a few data points from summer school. During the summer of 2024, 26 students graduated from high school. 158 students were able to recover 400 credits. Each credit recovered is another credit towards graduation. Additionally, 225 students earned initial credits in health and PE, government, English 12, and/or economics and personal finance. We've covered a significant amount of data connected to our class of 2024, and you may ask, how did we support students and facilitate success throughout our schools? The answer is continued collaboration and teamwork paired with individualized, timely, and tiered academic support or interventions for our students. All of the remarkable work and progress highlighted this evening would not be possible without the dedication of our teachers and administrative teams, all under the leadership of our amazing high school principals who are all in attendance this evening. At this time, they will share a quick highlight from their school connected to the class of 2024. We will start tonight with Mr. Townsend.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. The high school principals are honored to share examples of the incredible work facilitated by our staff over the past school year. I would like to highlight Daniel Nelson Lopez Amaya. Jamestown High School boasts students who accepted nominations to service academies, colleges, the military, and the workforce. Daniel's journey to a diploma started by putting one foot in front of the other. Daniel came to the United States on his own, walking from El Salvador. He worked at least 40 hours a week to support himself on top of going to school. He had a huge task ahead of him going into his senior year. He needed 4 verified credits to pass all 8 of his classes. It took more than 10 attempts at all of the verified credits last year in extra tutoring and practice, but he did it. Daniel was able to build his academic language through English as a second language class support, collaborative support in general education courses, a strong and passionate faculty and staff, and his own work ethic. Daniel was not immune to the pressures of dropping out of school. He thought about leaving school multiple times due to financial responsibilities and the overwhelming anxiety of passing so many exams. Daniel continued coming to Jamestown because of the faculty, staff, and community support. He felt that Jamestown was a safe place for him to learn, fail, and succeed. Daniel is just one example of our student body who work with our faculty to find their way to their future. Daniel is incredibly resourceful, dedicated, and passionate about learning, and like all of our students, are so much more than just a score. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. Lafayette High School was fortunate to have a student like Braden Lee who took full advantage of everything high school had to offer. Braden was a 4-year letterman in cross country, indoor track, swimming, outdoor track, and baseball. He excelled, becoming all district, all region, and even a state-level performer. His outstanding accomplishments, both on the field and the classroom, earned him recognition from the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. In academics, Braden graduated as our salutatorian, completing over 10 AP classes. He was the member of multiple National Honor Societies and is currently an Eccles Scholar at the University of Virginia, where he is pursuing a degree in business. We are proud to say that the Lafayette experience provided Braden with a well-rounded education and exposed him to a diverse student body. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. War Hill would like to share the story of Levon Jones. Levon faced numerous challenges throughout his high school career, including frequent withdrawals and re-enrollments, an ongoing struggle to stay focused on his goals, and some attendance issues. Levon moved schools multiple times, briefly enrolled in Job Corps, and even considered getting his GED. However, in the end, Levon remained determined to graduate, and with the support of teachers and staff, he successfully achieved his goal. His teachers provided him with individualized attention, encouragement, and academic support, helping him to overcome his academic deficits and build his confidence. Levon never truly gave up and knew that the teachers and staff at War Hill would always be there for him when he was ready to get the work done. When he passed his final SOL, he cried and immediately said, "I have to call my mama." Levon's story serves as an inspiration to other students who may be struggling, demonstrating that with perseverance and support, it is possible to overcome challenges and achieve success. It is also a testament to our War Hill staff who will do whatever it takes to help each of our students achieve their goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you to Mr. Townsend, Mr. Rice, and Ms. Newcomb. We realize that your examples offer only a small glimpse into the work done at every school. Thank you for your exceptional leadership. As you hear us say each year, a graduation rate is a percentage representing a number. Our school teams know each individual name and face connected with the numbers, including their needs, their strengths, and their goals for the future. They care about every child, and they put in the grit, the hard work, and time to make a difference in the lives of the faces you see on this slide, as they represent the why behind what we do. Thank you for your time this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Worley. It was a great presentation with a lot of encouraging data, so that was great work.
We're excited.
Any comments or questions, Mrs. Hundley?
Yes, definitely. This is just a proud moment to see all these numbers. Just for people that are listening, and also for me, because I'm not sure. When we look at how many students take the AP classes, all three high schools have the same number. I'm asking too for someone of opportunities for the students to take AP classes, right? So not one school might have more of them, and because the numbers, there's a big difference.
I think there's two things that go into that. Right now, taking the AP exam is optional, and we talk about that each year. So we have students choose to take the exam. All of the courses are offered, and as we say, and you might even hear that again when we talk about courses later on tonight, the courses that make are driven by the student request. And so we evaluate that each year, and we do have the data by each school, and there are some courses that will make it one school that don't make it another 1 year, but they all typically run about the same with the number of courses offered each year, but they may fluctuate by one or two.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Riffle?
I'm going to jump into the testing part. Well, thank you again. This is awesome to see, especially compared to our other people on the peninsula or in our own cohort. I guess my first question would be on the local division rates when it comes to the number of students versus, is there like a different standard that they used for like allowing for their graduates? Because I know that, but clarify this for the public, because you can see like, if you're a data person, you could be like, if you have more things to pull from, you have a higher percentage of chance to score, right? So could you talk maybe a little bit more?
Are you asking about the local division's graduation rate?
Yes.
So we gave a comparison to all of the local divisions, and I mean, we put in the work for each style to help them get there, and there's a lot of things that go into graduation: verified credits, earning credits in class, being present and graduating on time. And there's a big difference you may notice between the on time versus the cohort completion rate, where the cohort completion rate, where they are definitely prepared on a track to the workforce or college. It's just not within 4 years.
Okay.
So, you know, there's different demographics in school divisions. We don't have all that here for you right today, but so some of that may go into the makeup of how many students are actually in the cohort, how many students are graduating. But I think here in Williamsburg, we put in every effort to help every kid get across the stage at one point or the other.
Sure, and we can definitely see that from our data, not only, and also as members when we attend both other graduations, or all 4 other graduations.
Yeah.
I also want to point back to the SAT score and just the question there. Are those first-time test takers, or are they super scores, or are they, because you can take the test multiple times and
Right.
receive different.
So the data reported tonight on the SAT was the students for last year's class taking the test. So the class of 2024 students.
Was it multiple tries in the test or just one?
I believe it's one. I'm looking to my. Do you know? I'll get that clarification for you. I think it's just
It
one
looks
attempt.
like just one. Because
Yes, because the numbers are low.
Maybe the person who most recently took the test
using my context
has a pretty
clues.
good score, but also most people want to get higher than that for the average. Because like William Mary, for example, is a 250, a 1250 to get into the college is like their average. And I also want to point to the AP testing that is they're astronomically harder to take than a college course, which is why I think they're optional to take in the course load. And this is a comment mostly just as, I took the AP tests maybe more recently than anyone else here. They are tremendously harder than school. I people are like, why is it so low? It's like, you go take an AP test and tell me if you understand. It's like chemistry alone is beyond like what most people are taught in the K through 12 curriculum of chemistry. So I mean, William Mary is easier than an AP test in my imaginary mind. I defer to credit from my AP class to this, but that was a terrible choice. I will also publicly announce you should not do that ever. This is my chance to say that. So yes, they're doing great work for that type of scoring. The AP tests are not easy, and they're definitely something that I think our administrators and our teachers in these courseworks will say, you should definitely think about taking this test and like taking it seriously, because you not taking it is fine, but there's also suggestions that it isn't the best. It doesn't feel great to get a 1 or 2 on the test. So thank you for suggesting that.
If I could just comment on that, in our philosophy in approaching AP testing and access to the curriculum, we encourage every student, if they wish to take part in an AP course, because it allows every single student to be exposed to higher level teaching and curriculum. And at the moment we don't require the test, but certainly when we start to look at the new expectations, the new accountability system with the 3 E's, we may be looking towards maybe paying for that test, so we enable every student to actually take the test.
Dr. Cavazos?
One question. If I got the numbers right, there were 366 SAT test takers in 24, and there were 81 ACTs. So that's 447 out of a cohort of 953.
Right.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
That's like, so half of the students took an advanced college placement test. How does that compare across the state? Do you know?
I don't have that data right there in front of me, but we have seen fewer students in the nation participating in those tests across the board. Typically because there's shifts in what colleges are requiring. And a lot of that started as a result of the pandemic, but as we thought we'd see it go up, it's not. It's kind of remaining stagnant. So colleges are considering other things on the application versus a standardized test.
So one other question. Were there any National Merit Scholars?
Yes, we have that each year. I don't have that data in front of me, but we can get that for you.
One?
No, I'm just saying use your mic.
Oh. We're having a conversation here. Is there any National Merit Scholars was the question, and she said you didn't have the data. I was just curious.
We can get that
in front of me.
We can get that for you.
It's I'm sure they were there. I was just
I think there was 3.
It's a nice little.
They
memory.
were published in the program at graduation. Thank you.
All right, and are there any other questions or comments, Mr. Riffle?
One last one. Is there a place where we can look about certifications, about students receiving like a job offer in the future, this type of data when we get it to the board? Because we do have, this is a suggestion for the next presentation, because there's a lot of data and we love to read, but I think there's something that we have programs and data on that we should maybe look into, is like, we're doing this as well. And it's really, it's important to us as the board. We are
So data on where they're going after graduation?
like a workforce thing. It's like they're going to like, they're becoming a mason
Yes.
or they are a plumber, right? Like,
We do track some
Yes.
of that, and we'll be doing that more with the new system, so.
Right.
Yes.
lots of things are changing.
And Mr. Riffle, with certifications, we do present that as part of a different presentation throughout the year, and the number of students who take certifications. But yes, it's very important.
Of course, thank you.
Okay. Board members good? Well, thank you again, Dr. Worley, and thank you to all of our principals and all of their staff for all the tremendous efforts to get us to this wonderful presentation. It's hard to look at people behind me. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to 5.03 strategic plan update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Each November, Mr. Baker brings some information and an update on recruiting and hiring and retention of staff. And this now becomes really our first presentation on one of our Elevate 28, our bridge plan goals for this year. Mr. Baker.
I could advance the slide. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, and Dr. Herron. On behalf of the Department of Human Resources, I am pleased to be here to share you an update under human capital and positive culture. A key priority under human capital and positive culture is to be fully staffed on the first day of school and the supportive measures to get us there. While our goal is to always be 100% staffed to begin this 2024-25 school year, we were 3.5 teachers short, or 99.7% staffed for classroom teachers. While teachers are a critical focus of our workforce, we are also extremely well staffed for support positions, or 92.5% staffed, and we were 100% staffed for administrators. Anticipating another challenging year for 2024-25, we developed a staffing plan with a focus on remaining 100% staffed for the first day of school. This staffing plan included analyzing teacher hiring trends by content level and over a 5-year period. And we evaluated teacher turnover trends, we reviewed upcoming retirement eligibilities, and we engaged in student teachers directly. As a result of our analysis, we improved our intent survey process, which identified 124 teachers that were uncertain about their plans for the current school year and engaged with them on what it would take for them to remain. Of the 124 teachers that indicated that they were uncertain, 90 returned this school year. Principals also engaged in stay interviews with instructional staff to help them understand the uncertainty around their employment status for next year. We also made 63 early offers to teachers, with 34 accepting, and last year we had 32 accept early offers, and previously that number had been significantly less. How do we become so well staffed? Well, we had 6 in-person WJCC job fairs for teachers and support personnel, and provided on-site licensure expertise to provide individualized guidance for candidates interested in a career in teaching. In addition, we held 3 virtual teacher job fairs, and we also hosted an iTeach event, an alternative pathway to licensure night to network with potential career switchers. All told, we personally engaged with over 300 potential new WJCC employees at our job fairs. We also attended 12 university job fairs, as well as events sponsored by the Hampton Roads Work Councils, Troops for Teachers, and Virginia Values Veterans, or V3. Some additional work that Human Resource also did this year to help recruit and retain employees included, in January of 2024, we implemented a new applicant tracking system. In May, we launched the electronic record system that enabled us to provide electronic contracts to all staff and onboard our new employees with less actual paper. In August, we launched a new substitute management system, Smart Find Express, and since launching that system, our fill rate for substitutes has averaged 85%. These new integrated solutions also work with our current professional learning management system and our evaluation management system. As part of the ongoing effort to expand our teacher applicant pool, we received approval from the Virginia Board of Education to partner with iTeach Virginia, an alternative pathway teacher licensure program. This residency-style grow-your-own program, an innovative partnership, provides eligible candidates with an affordable, self-paced option for completing the licensure requirements while they receive supervised classroom teaching experience. Our new teacher induction program, Launch, also provides them with onboarding support, mentorship, personalized professional learning to enhance what they are learning in their courses. Goal 2 under Human Capital and Positive Culture is to annually retain 90% of our employees by focusing on employee engagement and talent development. We want our employees to grow and to be supported in their career paths and to maintain a commitment to WJCC. To begin this school year, we retained 85% of our teachers, 79% of our support staff, and 92% of our administrators. We do that by promoting from within, by providing professional development growth opportunities, and with a comprehensive benefits package and employee recognition programs. Regarding growth, this past year, 7 substitutes transitioned to full-time teaching positions within the division. In addition, we had 11 staff transition from aide positions into teaching positions for the current school year, and 1 retiree transitioned into a math intervention role. To help us better retain our employees, this year we are undertaking a healthcare request for proposal, or RFP, and a compensation study to ensure our total compensation package is competitive and attractive to our current and prospective employees. In previous years, we've also had targeted pay equity reviews and made specific adjustments to our teacher pay scale. In addition, we continue to provide and add upon our professional development opportunities for all levels of staff. This past year, we added Centera HMO to our health insurance option to provide more opportunities for our staff. Additionally, we updated our 403B and 457 providers. This new option provides more transparency to our employees, greater investment monitoring, and dedicated support to WJCC, along with better performing funds. This year, this also comes with FinPath, a financial planning service for all of our staff at no cost to them. Employees can consult with a certified financial planner at no cost and have access to opportunities to increase their financial wellness with regular offerings. We also enhanced our communications regarding benefits by holding an employee benefits fair on April 25th with nearly 100 attendees with a mix of staff, including transportation, teachers, and support staff. Vendors from Anthem, Centera, VRS, TCG, Legal Resources, AFLAC all participated in person. We recorded the presentations and made them available on Insider for our employees to view at their convenience. Another retention item was the enhancement of our tuition assistance program. We increased the opportunity for employees to earn more credits for their education. This program provides tuition assistance to teachers and staff that want to engage in continuing education. In 2022-2023, we had 110 applicants for tuition assistance, and in 2023-2024, we had 191, which was a 73% increase in the tuition assistance program. This year, we've been fortunate to learn from several renowned leaders who shared their expertise and latest research on topics such as academic recovery, collaborative problem solving in school discipline, authentic leadership, and fostering trust and collective efficacy in teams. Our Leadership and Learning series included collaborative sessions on employee well-being, engagement, evaluation, sustaining momentum towards continuous improvement goals, blended learning, and leading inclusive school communities. All division administrators also participated in standard response protocol training last summer, with 3 pilot schools implementing the new Raptor technology this spring. Finally, we're excited that the first aspiring administrators in our WJCC ODU Education Leadership Cohort have completed their internship with us and will graduate in December. Launch is our redesigned teacher induction program, and it has included an enhancement to the onboarding process, mentor development, and strategically planned professional learning for our new educators. Informed by research and aligned with the Virginia Board of Education's guideline for new teacher programs, Launch is a multi-tiered, team-based approach to identifying and personalizing our new teacher experience. One of those tiered initiatives is our RISE program, a 5-session professional learning series designed specifically for new special education teachers. This year we engaged with over 36 new teachers with a just-in-time strategies and knowledge to assist them in meeting their unique needs of and the students they serve. Additionally, 14 of our provisionally licensed general education teachers attended the CERN Novice Teacher Academy at William & Mary, with 4 of our master teachers serving as co-facilitators in this statewide program. We support our retention efforts also by recognizing and honoring our employees and supporting them in their current roles and growing their potential while they're still gainfully employed with WJCC. We continue to honor our Teachers of the Year and our Support Employees of the Year, as well as the work by our communications team with the continued efforts with their Heroes of Hope and Soaring Superstars recognition programs. This past week, on November the 5th, we also hosted the second annual Support Employee Professional Learning Day with 18 sessions on supporting instruction, technology integration, communication, stakeholder engagement. We had 477 registrations, and this was truly something for everyone. Another professional learning series, the STARS Para Academy, is designed to enhance our paraprofessionals' knowledge and skills in literacy, in math, special education, multilingualism, student behavior, and building a collegial relationships. These programs seek to increase retention by providing the promotional pathway for these essential instruction support employees. STAR stands for Supporting, Teaching, and Relational Strategies, and the participants apply for one of two cohorts depending on their previous experience. We also provide other programmatic offerings to increase retention, and these include staff surveys that you'll hear more about later this year, the teacher forum, the support employee forum, and HR has quarterly site-based scheduled visits at every school. That completes this evening's strategic plan progress update related to human capital and positive culture. Be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mr. Riffle?
Thank you, Mr. Baker. This is great to see on a slide and the capture. Thanks for being our first person for the Elevate 2028. So it's awesome. I just wanted to touch base on the fourth slide about the recruitment data. That's based off SOQ numbers, right? Not like a standard that we create ourselves, right? Like recruitment, 100% of.
Sure. It's 100% on the first day of school is the goal.
Of SOQ, or is it our own?
No, that's us.
So that's what I'm trying to establish. We have our own standard, so it's even like more
100%
beyond like what's the state's requiring of us. So it's like we are setting a bar for ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Okay, we will move on to item 6.01, the presentation of fiscal year 26 through 35 proposed CIP plan. Oh, capital improvement plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a lot of annual presentations tonight from staff, as I'm sure you're beginning to realize. And this is one of the important ones that we do every single year at this time as well. So, Madam Chair and school board members, thank you for the opportunity to present the Superintendent's proposed capital improvement plan for fiscal year 26 through fiscal year 35. This evening, Ms. Ewan will present not only the proposed plan, but provide context and background for the recommendations, including information about enrollment projections and building capacity, and their impact on the proposed capital plan. Let me set the stage for the presentation with a few significant facts. Enrollment, as you saw earlier this evening, at all levels is projected to remain fairly static over the next 10 years. Therefore, high school expansions at both Jamestown and Warhill High School have been placed just outside the 5-year funded plan. The request for additional classroom space to adding to James Blair Middle School remains outside the 10-year plan. Currently, we are over capacity at the elementary level and have trailers at all elementary schools except Matoka, 14 in total with 28 classrooms in trailers. Therefore, we are excited about breaking down ground on the pre-K centres, Bright Beginnings North and South campuses in early spring of 2025, with a projected enrolment in the fall of 2026. The two new pre-K centres combined will serve 500 students, 100 more than we currently serve in our elementary school program. The Bright Beginnings is already full this year, and we anticipate the likelihood of the new campuses being fully utilised in their first year of operation. Opening the Bright Beginnings North and South campuses will enable us to remove all trailers from elementary schools and necessitate redistricting, a process that will begin early next year. We are grateful to our funding partners for supporting the pre-K dedicated space to alleviate overcrowding at the elementary level. With the pre-K space coming online and based on current enrollment projections, a new elementary school should not be needed within the next 10 years. Obviously, we will continue to monitor and revisit space needs annually at all levels when we review updated enrollment projections to plan for future needs. Of note, the superintendent's capital improvement plan adds back all of the projects removed by the Board of Supervisors last year, and Ms. Ewan will speak to that this evening as well. And at this point, I'm delighted to hand over to Ms. Ewan, Chief Financial Officer, to take us through the presentation that focuses mainly on fiscal year 26, which is our next funded year. Ms. Ewan.
Thank you, Dr. Heron. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Heron. This evening, we'll be sharing with you the superintendent's proposed capital improvement plan for fiscal years 26 through 35. The information presented this evening represents that of a working document that will evolve until the school board's approval in December and possibly even until the final adoption in May. Included within board docs is a spreadsheet showing the recommended 10-year plan for your reference. Any additions to the current adopted plan are highlighted in blue. Amounts highlighted in orange have been updated. Amounts highlighted in green indicate a change in fiscal year for a project, and projects highlighted in yellow are projects that were removed as part of the fiscal year 25 budget process and added back into our plan. The estimates for projects in the capital improvement plan include anticipated A&E costs of 10% if applicable, 5% for contingency, and the cost estimates within the 5 years have been adjusted by 6% due to the current volatile market. A new project may appear in the CIP for the first time due to new or updated information, for example, updated enrollment projections or projects needed for safety reasons. Our funding partners adopt a 5-year plan, but we develop a 10-year plan, which enables the division to project and plan for future needs beyond the 5 years, and also gives our funding partners adequate time and opportunity to prepare and budget for capital projects. As funding is appropriated annually, tonight our initial focus is on fiscal year 26. We will review the changes for fiscal year 26 from the adopted fiscal year 25 5-year plan, and we will also review modifications to the current plan. If you'll recall, there were several projects removed and unfunded from fiscal year 25 during last year's budget process, so we will provide updates on those projects as well. Our 10-year enrollment projections were shared earlier this evening, and before we discuss the CIP plan, I would like to review our enrollment projections from last year in comparison to our current year enrollment. Our September 30th, 2023 enrollment was 11,324, and based on this, our projection for this school year ranged from a low of 11,256 to a high of 11,646. Our actual enrollment for this year ended up between the low and moderate projection at 11,379, which is represented by the blue horizontal line on the graph, an overall increase of 55 students as compared to last year. This slide shows a comparison of our high school enrollment compared to the projection. Our September 30th, 2023 enrollment was 3,779, and based on this, our projection for this school year ranged from a low of 3,729 to a high of 3,864. Our high school enrollment ended up between the low and moderate projection at 3,774, as represented by the blue horizontal line on the graph, which is a decrease of 5 students as compared to last year. This table shows Future Think's low projected enrollment as it compares to the division's capacity for high schools. Lafayette is currently at 95% capacity, or 1,251, and is projected to remain around 94% throughout most of the next 10 years. Jamestown is currently over capacity at 1,244, or 103%, and is projected to remain above 100% throughout most of the next 10 years. War Hill's current enrollment is 1,279, or 89% capacity, and is projected to go down slightly in the next 2 years and remain stable for the remainder of the 10-year period. Overall, high school capacity is currently at 95% for the current year and is expected to decline slightly in 2 years and remain stable for the remainder of the 10-year period. Currently, a renovation is underway at Lafayette High School, which will increase capacity, and there are expansion projects for Jamestown and War Hill included in the plan starting in fiscal year 30 for the design work at Jamestown. This slide shows a comparison of our middle school enrollment. Our September 30th, 2023 enrollment was 2,692, and based on this, our projection for this school year ranged from a low of 2,645 to a high of 2,740. Our middle school enrollment ended up between the low and moderate projection for this year at 2,681, which is represented by the blue horizontal line. This is a decrease of 11 middle school students as compared to last year. This table shows Future Think's low projected enrollment as it compares to the division's capacity for middle schools. Overall, middle school capacity is currently at 86% and is not expected to reach 90% until beyond the next 10 years. Based on this, Phase 2 of James Blair would not be needed until beyond this 10-year plan. This will be reevaluated each year as updated enrollment information becomes available. This slide shows a comparison of our elementary school enrollment. Our September 30th, 2023 enrollment was 4,853, and based on this, our projection for this school year ranged from a low of 4,882 to a high of 5,042. Our elementary enrollment also ended up between the low and moderate projections with 4,924 students, which is represented by the blue horizontal line. This is an increase of 71 students compared to last year. This table shows the elementary low projected enrollment with pre-K added. Overall, we are currently at 94% capacity. James River is at 98%, Matthew Whaley is at 107%, and Stonehouse is at 108% capacity. All elementary schools have trailers except for Matoka to assist with space needs. Trailers are not reflected in the effective capacity in this table as they are a short-term solution to address space needs. You can see without additional space that elementary schools would remain between 94 and 96% capacity over the next 10 years, but design for 2 pre-K centers is almost complete with construction expected to start in the spring of 2025. Based on this timeline, there will be dedicated pre-K centers beginning in fiscal year 27, which will free up space within the elementary schools. This table reflects updated capacity for the elementary schools, with the current pre-K classrooms being utilized beginning in fiscal year 27 for a K2 class, which would accommodate 20 students per classroom. Comparing this new capacity with the low enrollment projection from this year, elementary schools would be at an overall capacity in fiscal year 27 of 87%, but will remain under 90% capacity through fiscal year 35. Matthew Whaley and Stonehouse will be over 100% capacity in fiscal year 27 when the pre-K centers open, and DJ Montague and James River will be at 98 and 99% capacity respectively. The division will need to go through a redistricting process in the next year in preparation for the opening of the pre-K centers. Based on these enrollment projections, elementary capacity will not reach 90% during the next 10 years, so a 10th elementary school is not included in the plan. Because our enrollment has once again been between the low and moderate projection this year, we are also sharing what the elementary capacity would look like when the pre-K centers open using the moderate projection. Under the moderate projection, elementary schools would be at an overall capacity in fiscal year 27 of 90%, and on average through fiscal year 35 would be at 92%, with DJ Montague, Matthew Whaley, Stonehouse, and James River all over 100% capacity. Before reviewing updates to the plan, I just want to remind everyone of the projects that were removed and unfunded in fiscal year 25. It was a total of 6 projects that amounted to $3.4 million that need to be included in our 10-year plan again. The projects include replacement of pitched asphalt roofs and the walk-in refrigerator freezer at Laurel Lane, repainting and replacing flooring at Blayton, a partial roof replacement at Berkeley, repainting and replacing carpet at Hornsby, and turfing of Cooley Field. We have reviewed projects within the plan and moved some projects from fiscal year 26 to 27 in order to accommodate adding 5 of the removed projects in fiscal year 26. One project, repainting the interior and replacing carpet at Hornsby, has been added to fiscal year 27. The replacement of the walk-in refrigerator freezer at Laurel Lane has not been added back to the CIP plan. It will be funded through Child Nutrition Services. The current cost estimates for these projects total $4.2 million, of which $3.5 million has been added to fiscal year 26. As stated earlier in the CIP presentation, the county focuses on projects for the next fiscal year, and our construction estimates are gathered the year prior to county funding. Estimates provided for any projects in years 2 through 10 are placeholders and may change because of natural economic forces like inflation, labor shortages, supply chain issues, or other factors that persist longer than anticipated. Cost changes for projects in fiscal year 26 from the adopted fiscal year 25 plan amount to $864,000 as outlined on this slide. The most notable change is the Matthew Whaley window replacement. The original amount in the CIP was based on an estimate from the Facility Condition Assessment in 2015 and did not take into consideration that the windows at Matthew Whaley have a different scope of work than regular windows and must meet the Architectural Review Board criteria for historic Williamsburg. The design of 2 pre-K centers is almost complete, and we expect construction to start in the spring. Approved funding to date for the construction and furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or FF&E, for the centers amounts to $35.2 million. The updated cost estimate for the construction of the 2 centers is $47.8 million. And based on this information, we are requesting additional funds in the amount of $12.6 million to be able to complete the 2 centers, which will help alleviate space constraints at our elementary schools. If you recall, our fiscal year 24 remaining funds amounted to $9.8 million, 90% of which, or $8.8 million, is to be retained in a future school use account. We've requested that the localities dedicate these funds specifically to the pre-K centers in order to close this funding gap. If these funds are allocated, then the net amount of funding needed would be $3.8 million. Here you will see some of the modifications to the 10-year plan, which include moving the repainting and carpet replacement at DJ Montague and the middle school activity tracks from fiscal year 26 to 27. This was done to accommodate the projects brought back into the plan for fiscal year 26. Adding paved playground space at DJ Montague, Laurel Lane, and Matthew Whaley. This was a recommendation from the CIP committee to meet the Virginia Department of Education recommended amount of hardtop playground space. Removing the walk-in refrigerator freezers at Berkeley and War Hill, which will be funded with the Child Nutrition Services funds. And the replacement for Laurel Lane will also be done utilizing Child Nutrition Services funds. This was one of the unfunded projects for fiscal year 25, which we have not added back to the CIP plan. Design funds for the War Hill capacity expansion have been added in fiscal year 31, and the construction moved to fiscal year 32. In addition to these modifications, there are also projects added in fiscal year 35 based on the division's established refurbishment and replacement cycles for HVAC, refurbishments, flooring, roofs, and generators. The CIP document presents projects by school. This pie graph shows the breakdown by type of project. HVAC and window projects account for 37.2% of the total 5-year CIP, or $33.3 million. Refurbishments, roof replacements, and other repairs account for 18.1% of the total 5-year CIP, or $16.2 million. Other projects, which include things such as bus canopies, field turf, generators, and school bus replacements, account for 26.3%, or $23.5 million. And new facilities account for 18.4%, or $16.5 million of the total 5-year CIP. The superintendent's recommended 5-year plan totals $89.5 million. Some of the major projects included in the 5-year plan include additional funds for the construction of pre-K space, centralized storage space at operations, and HVAC replacements at Matthew Whaley, Matoka, Stonehouse, Clarabird Baker, and Jamestown. And that concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Board members, That was a lot to take in. Are there any questions, comments? I have two questions if no one else wants to go right now. The capacity without pre-K at the elementary schools showed, I think, 4 elementary schools still over capacity. Is that any redistricting efforts? That's if we just pulled out pre-K but left everyone where they were?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. Then I had a question about some of the enrollment projections, and perhaps this question would have been better asked, at the previous presentation, but it did look like across the board we came in between low and moderate and quite far from most likely. So what different criteria are used for most likely than any of the other ones?
I'll follow up with Miss Healy and
Okay.
see if I can get
Yeah,
some
I
more
probably
detailed
should've-
information about that.
And just for the board's awareness, for those who are maybe going through this for the first time, when we get to the budget process, we used for years the low projection, but because we've been above the low projection and in between them, the low and moderate that Ms. Ortego just mentioned, we actually use the actual number of students for budgeting, even though that number could go up a little bit. And the increase, as you've seen tonight in 2 different presentations, any increase we have right now is at elementary school. But it's fairly stable overall.
Okay. Any other questions before we wrap it up, Mr. Riffle?
Yes. I was looking at just maybe some suggestions for it. This is a discussion. I can make it a question. Have you thought about asking the state for division changes? We've seen safety improvement come in other ways in the state budget. Another way, have we ever asked our local partners to ask for those type of legislative things in the past? And then, because they can be allocated through agency, has safety like parking lot, sidewalks, concrete bricks, bus replacements. Those are, I would say, public safety items you could ask for. Has that been done in the past?
I think the request for a line item to provide funding for safety measures, that's a fairly new thing that was added to the CIP, I think, just 2 years ago, following the major offenders report. And so that's a line item every year that is fairly new to us, that helps us do all of the safety improvements that we're doing over the last 2 years.
Great. So in that question, I think we should ask for the state, specifically to our House and Senate members, to ask for amendments in the budget for division-wide changes towards parking lot, sidewalks, and things like that. That's public safety. It's a good that they can control, and the state can allocate it and be like, here is a physical thing, The same thing inside of the pre-K facilities. We were talking about our legislative kind of thing, but these are 2 things I think the state has shown that they've done in the past and that we could benefit from right now. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Riffle.
yeah,
Good idea.
and then my other question, this is maybe more related to the actual projects themselves. When we refurbish a roof, are we thinking about the capacity to add solar, to revamp cost, to do this type of stuff? Because my next question would be what does energy cost? What does that stuff look like? And Mr. Snipes and I
think we've revisited this several times as a school board, and the time we brought information before, we weren't quite ready to move forward because of the potential split in the system. However, it is in the works, and Mr. Snipes, I'm going to hand to you to maybe just tell us where we are in beginning to look at solar as a...
excuse me, I'm going a little hoarse. We have put out a request for information for solar, which we are expecting back before December, and we're working with JCC Purchasing to review those requests, then begin the process of a possible RFP or an IFB for solar in the near future.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions on CIP for now? No? Okay, thank you, Ms. Ewing. Thank you. All right, that's 6.02, review program of studies for 25-26.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Annually, we bring to you the proposed program of studies for the next year. And Ms. Walter and Ms. Mumpoint are going to present this evening to you. It provides all of the information on our full program for middle and high school. Ms. Walter, are you starting?
Yes.
All right.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. It is our pleasure to present to you tonight the Program of Studies for 2025-2026. Tonight's proposed revisions and updates reflect the continuing goal of making WJCC's Program of Studies a user-friendly and relevant resource for students and families as they consider which courses, programs, and options offer the best path toward achieving their goals. As you can see here, the Program of Studies aligns with WJCC's Strategic Plan Elevate 28 and specifically supports the key priority of academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity. Before we begin tonight's presentation, we would like to thank the many different stakeholders and groups who met, reviewed information, and provided input over the last few months to develop the Program of Studies proposed this evening. Additionally, it is important to note that any new courses added to the Program of Studies went through the new course proposal process, which includes an interdisciplinary committee review and considers impacts on staffing, facilities, and other courses within the content area. In tonight's presentation, you will see changes that reflect updates to the Program of Studies with the user in mind, providing more clarity whenever needed. Overall changes and updates to the Program of Studies include minor grammatical changes and course description updates, updates to the general information section to provide clarity for families and current information, and the addition of 8 new course offerings to increase opportunities for students. Additionally, as an annual reminder, it is important to note that the updated New Horizons CTE and Governor School Program information will be updated within our Program of Studies once we receive an approved copy from their board. We will move through the changes and updates being proposed for the Program of Studies this evening, and you will find these in summary form within the Summary of Changes chart provided to you. This chart identifies all proposed changes for the Program of Studies this year and includes the page where you will find each of these changes. If a page is not included within this chart, then no change is being proposed for that page within the Program of Studies for 2025-2026. It is also important to note that any page number referenced in the Program of Studies will be updated with the correct page number when the final full document is finalized. To begin, I'd like to start with within the Using the Program of Studies section. Within the General Information and Terminology section on page 5, we have made 4 updates related to removing language specific to students entering high school prior to the 2018-2019 school year. Students within these years have aged out of high school at this time and it is no longer necessary to house this information in the Program of Studies. You will see multiple changes related to the removal of this information specific to this group throughout the WJCC Secondary Schools portion of the Program of Studies. Within the middle school program, on page 7, we have updated language regarding the sharing of expungement forms with students and families to ensure that the community know that these forms are shared with all students and families annually, but the specific method is not identified as there are multiple pathways this is shared, not just one method. On page 7, you will see an update to the accelerated math description. Here, families are provided with information on WJCC's process for identifying students who may benefit from an accelerated math path, as well as how a parent or guardian can request that their child be reviewed for math acceleration. Within the middle school program, we have also updated the language related to Virginia state assessments by clarifying that middle school students will either participate in the Virginia growth assessments or a VGA alternative assessment. Within the high school program section of the Program of Studies, beginning on page 8, there were a few minor changes and updates made this year. First, within diploma requirements, we have removed the diploma requirement information for students who entered 9th grade for the first time prior to the 18-19 school year, as well as the transfer student information for the same group of students. We have also updated the link provided to access the Virginia Department of Education multi-division online provider page, as the previous link was outdated. A final change in the high school program section was made to the description of the Learning Lab by adding language to clarify that the Learning Lab is a part of WJCC's Restorative Center. This concludes the overall updates and revisions for the proposed program of studies. Ms. Mompoint will now move on to share specific updates to course offerings and descriptions at the secondary level.
Good evening. This year, WJCC is pleased to propose new course offerings for middle school students in the area of fine arts. Additionally, within middle school programming, there are changes in the course descriptions in several courses. In this section, I will outline all of these for you. First, I would like to bring to your attention all middle school English language arts courses where program descriptions were updated to reflect the language of the new VDOE standards. Under World Languages, for the Introduction to World Languages course, there was a minor update to the course description, and in World Languages Sequence 2, a prerequisite of successful completion of Sequence 1 was added. In the area of fine arts, for choir grade 7, band grade 7, and orchestra grade 7, the courses and descriptions for each were merged with grade 8. These changes reflect the merging of course descriptions as they were the same but were previously separated by grade level. This year we are pleased to put forward the addition of advanced choir and advanced orchestra for students in grades 7 and 8. You will find these new courses on pages 27 and 29. These courses will provide experienced students with a higher level ensemble experience in their choir and orchestra electives. In addition to participating in regularly scheduled classes, additional individualized coursework such as compositional projects and solo performances will provide students an opportunity to develop their musical skills beyond those attained during regular large ensemble classes. Another new course under Fine Arts is Technical Theater, found on page 30. Technical theater focuses on the application of stage and performance principles and how they relate to the design, construction, and implementation of scenery, sound, lighting, makeup, costume, props, and stage management. These skills are influenced through reading and analyzing plays. I would like to begin the high school courses updates on page 32 of the program of studies. As a reminder, you may follow along with these changes on the Summary of Changes chart provided to you as a quick reference guide. Tonight, I will provide updates and edits made to high school courses within the English, Math, Science, Health and Physical Education, and CTE departments. I will also provide an update of each new course under these departments. We are pleased to share that we have reviewed staffing allocations and certification requirements for each new course, and our current allocations will allow us to staff each course. First, I would like to bring to your attention high school English language arts classes grades 9 through 12, where program descriptions were updated to reflect the language of the new VDOE standards. We are also pleased to introduce two new courses, Advanced Placement Seminar for English 10 and Advanced Creative Writing. Advanced Placement Seminar for English 10 replaces Honors English 10 and is a foundational course that engages students in cross-curricular conversations that explore the complexities of academic and real-world topics and issues by analyzing divergent perspectives. Ultimately, the course aims to equip students with the power to analyze and evaluate information with accuracy and precision in order to craft and communicate evidence-based arguments. Students in advanced creative writing will write poetry, personal narratives, one-act plays, children's books, personal essays, and other types of compositions. Students will also examine and study writing samples from each other, as well as published writers, to help them self-assess and improve their own writing. There will be an emphasis placed on students publishing their work through a variety of outlets or contests. On page 39, the high school mathematics suggested core course sequences chart has been updated to reflect a new course and a change in the name of another course. Under mathematics, we have updated elementary functions trigonometry to algebra 3 trigonometry. While the content of the course has not changed, we have aligned the name of the course with the actual content of the course, which includes units of algebra 2 and trigonometry. This change in title also makes course sequencing more clear in the program of studies. Because we've updated the name of the course, we also updated the prerequisite for math analysis pre-calculus to reflect the new name Algebra 3 Trigonometry. This change is found on page 41. We are pleased to offer a new course in mathematics, Advanced Placement Pre-Calculus. This is a rigorous course that builds on intermediate algebra concepts while introducing key topics in college algebra. The curriculum also extends the study of trigonometry, allowing students to explore, graph, and apply trigonometric and polar functions. As noted, this new course will also serve as one of the possible prerequisites for calculus, advanced placement calculus AB, and advanced placement calculus BC. In the science section, beginning on page 44, we have added a science discipline areas chart to provide a clearer understanding of options for science pathways. Within health and physical education, we have minor course description updates for health and physical education 9 and 10, and lifetime fitness and conditioning. In addition, health and physical education 9 and 10 have been added as a prerequisite for advanced physical conditioning. We are pleased to offer a new course, personal fitness. This elective course focuses on the design and implementation of a personal fitness portfolio that includes dietary needs, personal fitness goals, and physical activities that are self-selected and sustainable for a lifetime. Students may select physical activities from the following areas: individual and dual sports, team sports, weight training and conditioning, personal fitness, recreational activities, and rhythmic activities. Last year, Health and Physical Education 2 transitioned to Health and Physical Education 10, which now includes driver education within the health component of the course. With this change also came the update to the standalone driver education course currently offered to indicate that the 2024-2025 school year will be the last year WJCC would offer this course as a standalone. Offering this course for one more year allowed any students who had already taken Health and Physical Education 2 to still take driver education this year if they wished. This standalone course will no longer be offered in WJCC and has been deleted from the 2025-2026 program of studies. Beginning on page 72, I would like to draw your attention to a new course under Career and Technical Education, Technical Drawing and Design. In this foundational course, students design, sketch, and make technical drawings, models, and prototypes of real design problems while learning the language of technical drawing and design. With the addition of this new course, prerequisites for architectural drawing and design and advanced drawing and design have been updated. Technical drawing and design will serve as the prerequisite for architectural drawing and design, and the prerequisite for advanced drawing and design will be architectural drawing and design. This concludes the review of our course updates and new courses. Mrs. Walter will now review the course request timeline with you.
Beginning in January, when we return from winter break, school counselors will begin classroom and individual planning sessions with all of our rising 6th through 12th grade students. This year's curriculum fairs will be held on January 14th for rising 9th through 12th grade students and January 16th for rising 6th through 8th grade students. Also in January, school counselors will be facilitating transition planning by providing lessons for all of their feeder schools. Our course request window for the 2025-2026 school year will open online for all rising 6th through 12th graders and their families on January 21st and close on February 11th. This concludes our presentation on the program of studies for 2025-26. We welcome any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. And there's a quiz at the end of this.
Just as long as that doesn't include any of the trig courses or anything. Okay.
Any questions from Ms. Walker and Ms. Monpoint?
I do, yeah. So I'm excited to see new courses. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this, so this is a clarity for me and maybe anybody listening. So if I'm in world languages, and I think I heard Ms. Monpoint say we won't need any additional staff. So if I'm already a world language teacher, I may be teaching sequence 2 of some sort. But if something doesn't make of the new courses, then that new course doesn't get added, right?
So just for clarity, there's not an actual change in what we're offering. We are still offering level 1 or sequence 1 and sequence 2. The changes to the prerequisite to sequence 2. So currently it's not required that students pass sequence 1 in order to be able to take sequence 2, and now we're making it a requirement to have that passing grade in sequence 1. So we're not actually changing what classes we offer, just the prerequisite for it.
And then my last and second question, I did not understand anything on the driver's ed. What's happening with the driver's ed? Could you, I don't
Yes.
understand any of that.
Yes, so last year, what we brought to the board is that this year was going to be our last year offering driver's education as a standalone course. So now we offer driver's education and health as a combined course. And so we ensured that we were able to offer driver's education for one more year, so that any students who did not have an opportunity to take it previously would be able to take it this year. So now all students will be required to take driver's education and health in the same course.
Okay, so it's, the driver's ed teachers now are health teachers now.
They were always.
They've always been.
Oh, they've always been. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Riffle?
Yeah, I took this course. It's the best way to do it because then everyone learns the importance of road safety. I'm just going to say thank you for the additional courses. I think some things we've heard from the other parents and students themselves was the design class and then the PF or the physical training class advanced, especially all the disciplines that are included. And we have such good facilities for our new weight rooms and things like that. It's good to see that we're making use of the facilities we're paying for as taxpayers. So thank you.
All right, any other questions? I think that was it. Thank you very much.
If there's no other comments, I do want to recognize all of the coordinators sitting behind us tonight. You're wondering who this audience is.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah. It's awesome.
Thank you for all your work.
Is there a bus driving class? Yeah. Are you teaching that? I see.
Now that's real driver's ed.
That's right. You gotta get one out here, dude.
That's the one I'm taking, Mr. Riffle.
We've got two more items in proposed agenda items, and then I'm going to have a 5-minute
Thank
recess
you. I was
before we
gonna
go
ask for the
into
bio
all
break.
of our policies, so just
Yes.
giving you a heads up.
Yeah.
So we will move on to 6.04, review a purchase request for security cameras for buses. No?
No, it's
Oh,
green.
sorry.
Laptops first.
Trying to see if you were
6.03.
ready for that.
Almost
Nope.
count me on it.
6.03, review purchase request for student use laptops.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. This agenda item is to ask for your consideration of and approval at the next meeting of purchasing replacement laptops for elementary and high school student use in support of our ongoing technology refresh cycle. The Department of Technology annually refreshes approximately 1/4 of our staff and student laptops on a 4-year refresh cycle in order to maintain warranty and serviceability, as well as compatibility with required applications and network functionality. The purchase request will provide 700 laptops for 4th and 5th grade student use and 1,300 laptops for high school student use. The purchase does include extended warranty and services for a total purchase price of $1,287,300. The purchase will be made using the NCPA Omnia contract with Lenovo. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions? Mrs. Donner?
I just have one question. I know we've had some issues with the laptops this
Yes.
year and maybe in some elementary. Just wondering how we will make sure that these laptops are functioning.
Since you mentioned that, normally I would be bringing this purchase closer to the springtime. The reason that I am bringing it now earlier is for that very reason. The laptops that you're referring to are in their 4th year of service, and we have had some issues with some Windows updates being applied to those laptops. We want to go ahead and move them out of our active inventory, and this purchase will allow us to do that.
I know some elementary school students would be very happy
know
with
you
that.
I know a lot of technicians that will be very happy about that.
Does that mean 4 years is the standard lifespan of a laptop?
It really is. Previously, we were actually on a 3-year refresh cycle, but about 6-7 years ago, we moved to the 4-year refresh cycle in order to use our funding a little more flexible. But 4-year is as far as I would want to stretch it, as evidenced by some of the issues that we've had. 5 years would just be too long.
And that would be true for any brand?
Yes, yes.
Did you have a question, Mr. Riffle?
I do. Could you explain, like, we're not getting any funding back from the laptops that are not in use, right? What happens to the laptops we don't use that are not in our inventory?
The ones that fall off of our inventory, we do actually sell quite a few of them, so
Okay.
we do get minimal funding back, but it's very minimal.
There's no, like, reimbursements. I mean, I guess we go through the warranty process as they kind of fail, right? But we won't get it now that we're outside of the 4-year window. How long is the service window for?
The warranty is actually 2 years, I believe. But then we have a further accidental damage and protection service that we put on top of that, and that does extend to the 4 years. So as far as any funding coming back from warranty, we don't receive that funding anyway. It just goes in to repair the device.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else from board members? Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Landers. Okay, now we have the security cameras for buses.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lumbust is going to present this item this evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Herron. Tonight's proposed agenda item supports Goal 6 of the strategic plan, and being brought for your consideration is a review of purchase request to replace security cameras for 50 school buses from Sunny Merriman Incorporated under State Contract E 194-9742. WJCC Schools consistently works to improve safety and security. In this effort, we are asking for approval of funding to replace security cameras for 50 buses with modern and higher quality cameras. Many cameras that will be replaced have reached the end of life or simply are not reliable or cannot be repaired if broken. Total cost for replacement for cameras of 50 buses is $217,200.00. Funding is available through state security grant in the amount of $80,498.13, a federal security grant in the amount of $61,768.37, and the FY24 CIP safety and security funds in the amount of $74,983.50. The superintendent recommends the board review the purchase request of security cameras for 50 buses to Sunny Merriman Incorporated, be prepared to vote on the issue on the 19th of November 2024 meeting. Thanks for your consideration. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lambusta. Mrs. Hundley?
I just have one question. So I'm looking at the cameras. These are the ones that are monitoring what's happening behind the bus driver, or is these the ones on the side that are?
So the ones on the side are actually bus patrol cameras. The ones on the outside, is that what you're saying, ma'am?
No, I mean, these that you're showing pictures of, are these
Okay.
cameras the ones that are monitoring the students on the bus?
They're the internal cameras, that's
Internal.
correct, right. And the internal cameras that we want to replace, the 50, are what we call the Quest cameras. Those cameras were actually purchased between 2012 and 2017. So after that, we went ahead and started purchasing what's called the Vulcan cameras for the Angel Tracks, which are much better. These cameras right now, we're talking about them being 1080C or P, where the ones that we currently have, the Quest cameras, those are actually about 720p. So half the quality, they have half the storage capacity. Many of them are corrupt. They're breaking down. We can't find replacement parts for them. They're basically obsolete. So, and we actually process, since the beginning of school, we've processed about 150 requests with our camera system so
Okay.
far. So about 50 approximately per month.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Riffle?
Could you go into, maybe describe, and they're listed for us, but could you describe to the public like what these cameras do? Because they're quite advanced. They have infrared technology. They are, you just talked about the pixels per square. Like, is there anything that's like this is the better choice for us versus what we've been using because
Oh, this is much better. I mean, this is twice the storage capacity. You have twice the quality. You have what they call the fisheye cameras, right? So you have a wider angle lens. You can see down in the seats better, where with the old ones, they were just straight shots. The quality was extraordinarily grainy. And like I said, there have been several times where we've gotten a tape where it's been corrupt and we just couldn't use it.
Sure.
So, but with this, it's a solid state, much more advanced, much more reliable, and higher quality.
Thank you. And the last question, does this camera allow for the angle for the steps as you enter the bus and the driver?
Yes, sir. So you're going to have several cameras that are inside. They're going to be in the same location, about 5 cameras per bus. So you'll see the driver, you'll see the kids as they come in, and you'll have them strategically placed throughout the bus.
Great. Thank you again.
This might be a question actually for Mr. Riffle. Is this state security grant? Is that what you were talking about?
This is a part of that, but I would say that's annually. That's going to be the part of those security grants anyways. That's towards the public, and that's by grant. So those you request and you win those to then do these projects because you're going to do it anyways, But they're outside of it. It's kind of complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered because you just mentioned that. All right. Thank you. No other questions? Yeah. Thank you. Oh shoot! I just lost my. Well, I lost my agenda.
Standard operating procedures.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, 5.
Thank you. Oh, okay. I will have to go back in for that. Sorry. 1 second. Because this is me. Okay, sorry about that. We are looking at revisions to, well, I think it's not pulling up. We are looking at revisions to our school board standard operating procedures. So this is something that we had discussed, thanks, at our retreat in July. And really the changes are fairly minimal. The general topics that have a little bit of substantive changes to them are how we have to permit electronic attendance, our electronic attendance at meetings. Prior to now, we've been all voting on whether we allow someone in or not, and that will not be necessary anymore. We also changed, just for our own, just to keep us on track, how we schedule school visits through our clerk. So a specific process for that. And then we updated a portion of that affects citizen accommodations, citizens who might need accommodations when speaking at school board meetings. So those are the 3 substantive changes. Other than that, there were grammatical changes or capitalization changes. And so that's what we will be, those changes are what we'll be approving at our next meeting. And you've all been privy to those conversations and have the document. So if there's no other discussion on that, okay, Mr. Riffle?
This might be something for the action items maybe later too. I don't want Dr. Crosses has mentioned the moment of silence as a part of this. It could be in the next sections too. We could potentially amend it through policy, but is this something we want to discuss or? I mean, we're pretty favorable to it. We just didn't have the conversation. That's why. So.
Right. We had the unfortunate situation where we did bring up that topic during the retreat, as we had promised Dr. Cavazos, and he had a medical emergency that day and was not with us. So we didn't really actually get into it and have a discussion about it, even though we had been signaling we would. We can, if you would like to make a motion to amend it, or we could do it through another. Yeah, go ahead, Mrs. Donner.
I think it's an important discussion, but I prefer to have that during a retreat. And I think we've got one in February, so maybe we could talk about it during a retreat, and then we could vote on it after that.
I'm just mentioning it as the
fellow
colleague here.
No, you're right. That's good of you to mention.
We're not going to really do this changes as often as I wouldn't like to amend this more than once a year. So, but thank you.
So what happens if we discuss it in February? What's the sequence of events after that? We voted on that in February and it becomes part of the process?
We would have the conversation at our annual retreat in February, and then we would, depending on what, we would bring forth a proposal to change it coming from there, and then we would do the same thing. We would have the document on an agenda, and we would present the changes, and then we would approve it at the next meeting.
So it could be approved in like 30 or 60 days.
From the retreat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry to mention that.
No, I'm
I'm glad you brought it up. That was something we've been talking about, and so but it's good to explain why that didn't occur. We did bring it up, and we did try. Okay. So, Mr. Ruffalo?
Sorry, I have one question pertaining to the electronic communication. Do we have a limit in which members can attend the electronic? I didn't see it written in our standard policy. Like you could potentially attend almost half, if not more, meetings virtually now without a limit set.
I don't know that we changed the limit. There are some limits, and it looks like Dr. Kiever has that answer, but we haven't changed that.
The limit, I believe, is referenced in the policy itself under meeting participation somewhere in section B.
Okay.
There's a percentage.
Perfect. So I also make sure we have a cap. So
Yes, we cannot just have virtual school board meetings.
excellent.
Okay, I think with that we can call a 5-minute recess and let everyone stretch their legs. We'll once again reconvene this meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, and we will dive into a long list of policies with Dr. Keever.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Our first policy, agenda item 701, reviewing revisions to BDDC, agenda preparation and dissemination. Ms. Ortego did reference this during the standard operating procedure conversation. We are removing from the policy a line related to electronic attendance approval, and the discussion category title was adjusted to align with our current practice, which is listed on the board docs agendas.
Any questions on that one? Okay.
The next policy this evening, agenda item 7.02, BDDH/KD, public participation at school board meetings. You'll probably remember that we just recently revised this in September. We felt like in further consideration that we wanted to add some more specific language and clarity around the board hearing from citizens that reside within the city of Williamsburg or James City County, then to also include WJCC employees and enrolled students. So we created more specificity within the policy itself. I believe there's also been work with the chair and the vice chair and the clerk to update the speaker card that folks would pick up prior to the meeting and submit.
That is correct. It will reflect these changes here. Any questions from board members? Doesn't look like it. Let's go.
Thank you. 7.03, revised policy GBE, staff health and safety. The next couple of policies are generally within our 5-year review. In this particular one, formatting has been updated for consistency with some of the other policies. Lines 13 through 15 now resembles the VSBA model policy language per the attorney recommendation, and we, based on that attorney recommendation, are recommending adding this because it does provide the division more flexibility. As such, we can remove lines 16 through 18.
Okay.
The next policy is GBECA and KGC. This is a dually coded policy. It's in 2 sections, both personnel and students. This is adding on line 28, added or use based on our attorney recommendation. The rest of the policy remains intact.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Policy agenda item 7.05 policy is GCBD, staff leaves and absences. In a previous review of this, we mistakenly left off step brother, daughter, and step sister. We recommend including this in the policy.
Okay. Seems reasonable. No questions? Okay.
Agenda item 7.06. Policy GCDA, conditions of employment. There are some revisions in the policy in green that are related to recent code revisions and attorney recommendations. Most substantively, we would want to point out lines 103 through 105. Administration recommend and policy committee concurred that we as a school division pay for fingerprinting for the cost of our employees to go through that background check. Currently now, until this policy is changed, only certain applicants and potential employees qualify for that. We believe it's something that we should do to help entice employment within the division. We have funds that we can utilize this year, and we would put funding for that into the operating budget as we plan for the next fiscal year.
Okay, Mr. Riffle?
Can you describe the current cost of an individual? Because I think it was like $32 when I became a sub. But
Mr. Baker, do you know the associated individual costs?
It's the $37.
$37.
Yeah, it's only payable by check, so it was pretty fun. As a 25-year-old and didn't have checks at the time. So. anyways.
There is
nonetheless.
specificity
Yeah,
around
so
how
see,
you go
that's-
about paying for it.
You're getting a lot off your chest tonight, aren't you, Mr.
I have to, you know. It's for the people. That's why I'm here. AP tests are hard, all right? I'm not, my parents have some choice orders than me.
Okay.
Even if I have Thanksgiving coming up. There we go. Thank you, all right?
Save it for Thanksgiving.
7.07. The next agenda item, revised policy IFB. This particular policy was last revised in 2006, so we are coming towards the end of revising the policies that were somewhat overdue. You may recall a previous month where we looked at educational research. This particular policy, from our perspective, really deals with pilot programs and experimental projects. So we have clarified that language and also enhanced the regulation that is a corresponding piece with this.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this from the board?
Agenda item 708, which is the policy IGAE and IGAF, Health and Physical Education. This is within a 5-year review cycle. The policy revision components included adding sections around explaining health instruction, which is aligned to the VSBA model. That's lines 16 through 29. We've also revised lines 31 through 32. And in line 36, the word physical was added, and there is additional language in lines 36 through 39 related to the personal safety training requirement, which was codified in 2022.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Doesn't look like it.
709 agenda item, which is policy JFCF, drugs and alcohol. We are recommending a policy name change. So instead of alcohol and drugs singularly, we're talking about alcohol and drugs in school to add some specificity around that. The additional language that we've added is specific to defining where and how you may be in violation of the policy. Additionally, we've added some language around students, disciplining students with disabilities, and the considerations for how those students with disabilities are provided or afforded discipline. This has been, as we've talked about previously, a specific request of our SEAC team as we look at student discipline policies, and we felt compelled to add that here.
Okay. Questions? Board members? No.
Agenda item 710, which is a revision to policy KG, community use of school facilities, again within our 5-year review cycle. There are some words that we've removed. We've cleared up some language. The line 15 and 16, we removed the words at the end of each month since it's often not applicable, and the superintendent shall report the actions taken under the policy to the school board. Additionally, the regulation has been updated, and we have updated the fee schedule as well. Once the board approves the policy, that will all be posted online. Our use of facility process is available to citizens making that request via our website.
Okay. Any questions on that? Nope.
Last but not least, we wanted to bring agenda item 711 back to the board for additional conversation and consideration. And in this particular presentation, I will endeavor to do a better job of explaining why we feel like we need to revise this policy. Policy IKAA right now details that there are exemption possibilities for final exams, but the policy itself does not indicate that the school division will provide or expect students to take final exams. And in conversation with the high school principals, we are asking that the board take action to approve the policy, specifically lines 6 through 8, which talk about final exams being culminating assessments and administered to students enrolled in credit-bearing classes. We believe there ought to be an exemption process for those students that might experience success in SOL courses and industry certification courses. The exemption process is, we believe, clearly delineated in a corresponding regulation, which provides information on how you would go about qualifying for that exemption. I take full responsibility for perhaps not explaining that as well as I needed to in our last iteration, but without making a change to this current policy, there isn't a policy that requires final exams to occur. And we believe that the board wants to have final exams, and as such, we believe that you ought to revise the policy.
Thank you, Dr. Keever. So this did generate some discussion last time. So are there any questions? Does that explanation differ from what you had previously understood, Mr. Hossain?
So what is the policy then for the exemption potential for students to receive?
The exemption, in order to qualify for an exemption, there are certain criteria that you would have to meet. For instance, you're a senior that earns a particular grade in a course, or
what policy does that fall under?
it is a regulation. We are recommending that the exemption process be delineated in the regulation, which corresponds with the policy.
Where is that?
It's in their student
An IKAAR, so it's in board docs.
Would be moved to a regulation.
It would be moved to a regulation.
So you need to go back into there.
Also within the regulation, we explain the percentage by which the final examination is its constitutional.
Sorry, Dr. Keever. Let's
Yep. Can I jump in here or no?
just give it a minute.
Okay.
Do you want to?
It's
You just ask the question, or? No?
I was just showing him where
Right,
to find
sure.
it.
For me, it's a philosophical decision, and it's beyond me, so I don't have any more comments. I just think final exams should be mandatory.
And I think that is
I
what.
think what we're
this is
trying
saying.
to clarify by way of the policy revision is that final exams occur. Right now, the policy, as it's worded, just talks about how you would be exempt from an exam, not that there's an expectation to take the exam.
Right, so you're talking about, it's the technical issues, what you're talking about. The exemption's in here.
Right, we would be moving the exemption process out of the policy, which doesn't say that exams are taken. We'd move that into a regulatory piece. It also talks about the percentage that the grade could count for, and how the exams are developed collaboratively, but that the board would be indicating that exams ought to be taken at the end of a credit-bearing course.
So the proposed change does two things. It states specifically that we administer final exams and that we think that cumulative exams are important. And it takes any language that describes how to get an exemption out of policy and puts it in regulation. So it's doing two things.
Right.
That's what it is.
I understand what you're saying.
Mr. Riffle?
Yeah, as someone who voted no on this issue before, first I'm very appreciative of the re-explanation. I actually thought about this when we read it the first time. I was like, well, we don't even describe why you should take a final exam as a requirement. So thank you for satisfying that. I had no problems. I actually wanted to leave opportunity for the public to talk about this, and we didn't hear anything from our student advisory committee when we mentioned this. They felt like it was fine. From my understanding, when I asked Ms. Chin about it, and she was like, no one even cared. So, and that's really all I cared for me. I was like allowing for some public conversation in which no one had wanted to follow up with any of us, from my understanding about this. So I'm fine the way it is, as long as there's a suggestion that this is happening and there is some control in which we get to monitor this. So it's fine.
Any other questions? Did you have any questions, Mr. Hossain?
No.
No? So are you okay with these changes and with this being on consent agenda?
Yes.
Everyone's okay with that?
Let's lock it in, yeah.
Can I make eye contact over here? You're good with consent agenda? Okay.
He did it when I was
I
doing
know,
it.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Dr. Keever.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, then we have two very quick quick action items. Can I have a motion to approve personnel actions, please?
Madam Chair, I move to approve personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle, and thank you, Mrs. Henley. Ms. Robinson, when you're ready.
Mr. Riffle?
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Hossain?
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley? Aye. Mrs. Ortega?
Aye. And can I have a motion for item 8.02?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the approval of the release from compulsory attendance case number R2425-09.
Thank you, Mrs. Henley.
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle.
Mrs. Hunley? Aye. Mr. Riffle?
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Hossain?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega?
Aye. All right, and we have arrived at board member comments. Dr. Cavazos, would you like to start?
I had a really wonderful visit down to James River Elementary School, and I just want to go on record as saying that those individuals have done a tremendous job with the ESL students. They've really absorbed the increase in numbers of those students, and they've done a remarkable job. And there was a particular plea to hire some additional individuals that they need to further accomplish their goals. And Ms. Washington has made some efforts in that regard. So I just wanted to reiterate that if we could accommodate or try and see what we could do best to, look at her request and see if we could accommodate or make that happen, that would be deeply appreciated. I could give you all the particulars later on. It's not necessary tonight, but I could get with whoever you want me to get to. I mean, send you a message or something. But it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. Mr. Riffle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to just say I missed you all. It's been like a month or so, and so good to see everyone here. And it seems like things are still on course to graduate students, and we got a graduation date. Like things are moving, we're hopping. So I just want to say congratulations to all of our. There's a lot of athletic and arts championships happening right now, and it's pretty awesome. I don't want to mention a lot of them because I don't know all of them, but I went to Jamestown on election day, and I heard from the athletic director about how 6 of their 9 current sports are achieving, and I have the list of them, but I don't want to do it without naming the other high schools. So I just think go Jamestown and go our other high schools, in which they're succeeding in remarkable ways out of the classroom, and it's just awesome to see. And before the last meeting, Ms. Hunley and I went to our marching band assessment and got to see our high schools perform, and it was great to see their showcase. It wasn't actually just our high schools, it was a competition, which was cool to see some of our neighboring divisions as well. I wish I had read the plan for it. It was there for a long time, but it was pretty cool. I got to see my high school when I went to high school, so I shout out to Indian River High School. They did well in their placement, and they didn't remember me, which is perfect. So, and I just I'm looking forward to kind of the work we're going to do next week at the conference, and kind of get back together and just kind of enjoy our last times with Dr. Herring. You've been leading the ship, and it's been awesome to have our conversations, and excited for the session that comes. And I'm looking forward to hearing. So we heard a lot about the support framework in some of our conversations, but also the public is becoming more aware of as we look into the challenges with the new accreditation standards and stuff. And I think I went on the record of saying it's not a great thing to do. I welcome new challenges. I think it's something as a division we should welcome a higher standard, and that's not something we're against in our school board or as myself as a member. I just think it's important to be prepared for what the standard brings. And that's something I think an echo comes from across school boards, across our localities here on the peninsula, but also across the state. Requirements to education to change drastically like they are is not going to help education anyway. It's going to make us seem like we're not doing our part. Like education is doing amazing things. You can look at the data we got to see today across our localities and how we compete. Most people or most divisions, if not all of them, are beating the state standard. And so as someone who works where I do and where I am here as on the member, it's something I wish that we would take more seriously as we change kind of the optics in which we're identifying problems or saying this school deserves funding or not, or how much involvement the state government has inside of those things. They're heavy and hard conversations to have, and it starts here. I think it's important that we lock in and say, like, what do we want as a division? And I think our standards in which we adopted in the past really do reflect that. So I'm excited for the future of that. I just want it to be fleshed out and understood, because it is a lot to take in as a member versus the person who oversees this. But I can't imagine the people who are implementing those things. So thank you, Dr. Aaron, and your team for kind of explaining that to us of the next time. And I'm sure we'll get more and more updates as you learn things, especially after knowing how well we do in that current model. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle. Mr. Hussein, any comments?
First, I just want to thank the teachers and principals at Hornsby Middle School and Laurel Lane Elementary School. It's been a while since we've had a meeting, but so those are two schools that I had visited recently, along with Ms. Hunley and Mr. Riffle. And
I just forgot we
it's been a while. So I just want to thank those principals for taking us around, showing us the facilities, showing us bright beginnings at Laurel Lane. I mean, it was just good to get out and see what the teachers are doing at the different classes. And again, I'm just amazed at what these students in elementary school and middle school are learning, because it's nothing that we ever learned or thought about learning when we were in school. So hats off to all the teachers and students for what they're doing, and especially for those two schools. I just want to bring a quick attention to the board, just something that I've been looking at. This is coming up with the issue that we've all received the email from a parent regarding an English class at one of the high schools. And I don't think that one is specific. I think it's probably at all high schools where the teacher put out a list of books that the students can read from. And majority of them had sexually explicit content within the books. That's another issue that we can talk about at another time. My concern is when you look at our policy, which is IIA, and it lists the definition of what sexually explicit content is. It refers you to a state law. When you read that state law and it defines what sexually explicit content means, it is very descriptive, and I'm not going to get into exactly what it all entails, but I think we as a board need to be looking at that definition a little bit closer, because to me, any book that contains anything regarding that definition is inappropriate for our school system to have. I say that in a second way because that state law where that definition comes from is a restriction on state employees' access to that information. So basically, it talks about public institutions of higher education. I'm including our school system in that realm, where if I would happen to pull up one of those books on my laptop right now, I'd be in trouble. I'd be violating this law. So if that's the case, that we are potentially violating a state law with this sexually explicit content, how are we or why are we putting these in our books and allowing students to read them? I have a concern about that, and I just wanted to have that considered by our board and maybe looked at a little bit closer as to which materials are being used in our schools.
Did you read the list of books?
I went through the list of books. Did I read the books, all the books themselves? No, I did not.
No. But okay, the list that we're specifically referring to contains classic novels that are
Don't get me wrong.
Dickens and
Hawthorne. I completely agree with you, and so I have not looked to see specifically what that entails, and I don't know where that list came from, where it says this book contains sexually explicit content.
Right.
But when you read our policy and you go to the state law that our policy cites,
I'm familiar with
it's very
verbiage, yes.
I mean, I don't like the definition that the state law cites that we are putting these in our books and allowing our students to read. That's my concern, and I'm raising it to this board, and hopefully we can look into that into the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hussein. Mrs. Hunley?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a report also for Ms. Chen. She left to go to a fine arts thing, and we have gotten a lot of awards. And she and I had been to several of the fine arts presentations that they had, and it's just amazing to see what students are doing now in the fall. The spring is just going to be an explosion. But also today we were at Matthew Whaley, and we were very pleased with what we observed with Benchmark. We really got a firsthand experience in watching kids talk through and work through Benchmark activities. So that was great, and that was at Matthew Whaley this morning. And then we went to Norge, and I always have to laugh because I'm sure you all have heard this. Miss Matthews does not refer to the trailers, or we call them trailers. She said, we're going to go out to Triple E, which is the Exterior Educational Estates. And so we did. We went out and saw some amazing things going on there. And at both schools, we were able to also congratulate the teacher of the years that just came out. They were just so, I'm sure we'll hear more about that. And Ms. Chin was so proud that she wanted to see all of her schools within her first year of being on the board, and Norge was her last school. So she has got to visit every single school. So I wanted to say that in her behalf. As Mr. Riffle said, lots of sports awards that we're getting, and even drama. We have a middle school that got one. I think it was Hornsby got a drama award. Mr. Let's see, Cavazos and I went to War Hill High School, and it's really great. We've worked really hard, and it's nice to see students adhering to the find your focus with the cell phones and talking with each other at lunch and conversing. But one thing that I was interested in delving into was how the vape detectives work and how we're doing with that. And there was a nice little brochure that I put on my website called Rethink Vape, and it also has some resources for parents if students are still struggling with that. And I think that's just very important to mention. Also, we attended the Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, that was at War Hill High School, and that was phenomenal. That cultural, the food, the dancing, the show, and I know it was a long time ago, but I didn't want, a lot of work went into that, and I wanted that Miss Roche did an awesome job, and I think she almost single-handedly did all of that, and so it was a great experience. And let's see, also I went with War Hill High School to their VPCC workforce field trip. They went to Nicewood Enterprises up in Toano to see how shelving are made for all over the country for Barnes & Noble. And so it's like a trade program, so the children could get a job there. And then we also went to the workforce site where they had a nice lunch, and again got to see the different things like welding and carpentry, and so we are exposing children to that, and I just wanted the public to know that even the other two high schools will take advantage of that as well. And then again, Veterans Day programs are still a go. I went to the one at JBB, and then Stonehouse will have theirs on Thursday. So I just want to say for all the people, thank you for your service to all the families we have there. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Donner?
Thank you. Similarly, I was hanging out in the elementary schools, so had the opportunity to go to Claire Bird Baker with Mrs. Chen. And it was really fun to see how they have their house competition. And so all of the kids, if you think of Harry Potter in the houses or the Nest system at Jamestown, they have their own version of that, and to see the administrators and the kids excited about that. I think it was also really important to see where we have certain schools where we concentrate our higher needs special ed and inclusion and special ed classrooms. And so in talking to the principal, as we think about how schools are rated in terms of their academic achievements, when you have those programs concentrated in some of those schools, right, those numbers and those kids get counted towards those numbers. And so I think for parents to understand, like when you look at great schools or something and you see a number, it's just a number. And when you start to dig in underneath and understanding the students and the populations that they are serving, that there's more to those numbers. So fantastic spending time there. Also at Matoka, went with Mrs. Chen. She beat me because I still have one school and I've been in here 2 years. But with Mrs. Chen, wonderful. They have created a restore program within the school. And so they had space where they were able to create a place where if a kid just needs a 10-minute timeout, having an opportunity for that child to go into that room. They have different sensory things that allows them to have even little trampolines where they can jump and get some of the energy out. They have tackle, huge bean bags, which are like tackle bags, so they can do that. They've got fidget toys. And then they have all this information about helping the child process their feelings and where are they and where did they start and where did they end, and doing some reflection. And it's just new this year, but he's already starting to, our principal was sharing that the data is already starting to come out around, it's allowing them to have less disciplinary interactions with children and helping them to calm down to be able to go back into the classroom, which is what we want for our kids. And that also for some of the kids where discipline has been an issue or that concentration piece, being able to use it as a reward for them for getting through the day. It's also allowing them to figure out like when during the day do they tend to have more kids perhaps getting referraled or certain days of the week. So I think it's just wonderful. And as we start to look at creating more space in our elementary schools so that they are not overcrowded, being able to create other spaces like that in other places, because at this stage we have Restore for our middle school and high school, but within the elementary school there isn't a lot of options for kids when they reach that. On the fun note, Mrs. Hunley and I were at the Matthew Whaley Halloween parade through CW, so that's always a joy to see the kids do that parade. And then also yesterday was Monday was the Matthew Whaley Walk, and another Veterans Day celebration. The kids all planted their flags outside of Matthew Whaley, so that was a wonderful as well. So lots of wonderful things happening in our schools.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Donner. I had a few school visits myself. I went to DJ Montague with Miss Chen a couple weeks ago, and we also saw Bright Beginnings there, and talked with that principal, and she is very excited about the pre-K centers. I think that's going to be a really good thing for them to be able to centralize and all work together. So we're looking forward to getting that moving. Dr. Cavazos and I had a great visit at James Blair Middle School with Dr. Littleton, and we're very impressed by everything that he's accomplished in his 3 years since he's gotten here. So a lot of really cool, innovative ideas that he's brought, and seems to be doing quite well. So we're excited for them. And I am headed to Jamestown tomorrow, so I'm sure that will be fantastic as well. As Mrs. Henley mentioned, the dance troupe was fantastic, and I do know that was months and months in the works, and a big poster contest, and just a fantastic night. That I was blown away by the dancing, and brought my 8-year-old daughter with me, and she has been watching the movie Coco ever since, so many times. So it's just great to expose kids to something new and different. And so that was a wonderful night. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some things. We've had a lot going on that people don't see right now with everything we're getting ready for. So there's been a lot of heavy lifting, but we are in good shape, and we are on track, and we will end this year on this calendar year well. And I think that's all my brain has for tonight. I will read out our upcoming events. Special Education Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow, November 13th at 5 p.m. here in room 300 of the Annex. Policy Committee will meet on November 15th at 8:30 a.m. in room 203 of the School Board and Central Office. School Liaison Committee will also meet on Friday at 10:30 a.m. in room 108 of the School Board and Central Office. Career Ready Advisory Committee will meet on November 20th at 3:30 p.m. in room 300 of the Annex. And we will, I think, all be attending the VSBA annual convention that, fortunately for us, is held in Williamsburg at the Lodge. That's on November 20th through 22nd. Those are all-day events for the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And our upcoming meetings, got a lot. We have a special call meeting also on November 15th at 3 p.m. in room 300 of the Annex. We have a closed session on November 19th starting at 5:15 p.m. Here in room 300 of the Annex. And that will be followed by our regular meeting with public hearing on the recommended capital improvement plan. Also November 19th, 6:30 p.m. in the James Blair Middle School Gymnasium. We will be having a joint meeting with our funding partners on December 6th at 8:30 a.m. at the James City County Rec Center. And then on December 10th, we will have closed session starting at 4 p.m. here in room 300 of the Annex, followed by work session and action items. Also December 10th, 4:30 p.m., room 300 of the Annex. And our agenda is set for the next meeting. And with that, we are adjourned.